I never imagined that a single conversation on a quiet balcony could imprint itself on my memory for months. But that's exactly what happened the night I met Mia. It was a Saturday, and I had zero intention of going out. The week had worn me down, and all I wanted was to disappear into the comfort of a familiar TV show and forget the world for a while. But a close friend of mine had just moved into a new place and insisted I come to his housewarming. "Just for an hour," he said. "You need to get out of your head." Maybe he wasn't wrong. The party was already in full swing by the time I arrived. Dim lighting, cheap beer, and background music trying a little too hard to be hip. The air buzzed with overlapping voices and forced laughter. I floated to the crowd, nodded through small talk, chuckled at half-hearted jokes, and soon found myself quietly slipping away to the balcony just to catch my breath. That's where I saw her. She was leaning against a railing, arms loosely crossed, holding a red plastic cup like it was the only thing keeping her tethered. There was a heaviness in her posture, not loud or dramatic, just quiet and weighted, like someone lost in thought but too tired to chase it anymore. She didn't look like she was there to talk. Still, I offered polite nod, trying to sidestep the awkwardness. "Refugee from the floor inside?" I asked, half joking. She glanced at me sideways, her lips curling into a dry, knowing smile, more like escaping the fake smiles. Her voice carried a quiet sadness, not angry or bitter, just worn out. I chuckled softly. "Yeah, I get that. Feels like half the people in there are putting on a show for Instagram." That got a real smile out of her, small but honest. Her name was Mia. She worked in publishing love books and had an unapologetic love for horror movies and greasy Chinese takeout. I hadn't expected much from a random balcony encounter, but talking to her felt strangely effortless, like reconnecting with someone I used to know. There was a rhythm to it, a quiet chemistry. But under all the casual chatter, I sensed something else, something fragile hiding beneath the surface. It was in her silences, the pauses that lingered just a second too long, the way her words sometimes drifted off mid-thought like her mind was somewhere far away. Then, after one of those pauses, she exhaled and said quietly, "I'm not really here to meet people. Not in the long-term sense, anyway." I turned slightly curious. "What do you mean?" She looked at me fully for the first time, her eyes soft, guarded, carrying a kind of quiet ache. "I just got out of a relationship. 5 years. It ended ugly. And I don't want to talk about him or the details. She trailed off, eyes shifting away. "I don't know. I came tonight looking for a distraction. Something simple. Something I won't have to think too hard about in the morning." Her honesty hung in the air, raw and unfiltered. She looked down, as if embarrassed by her own vulnerability. "You're talking about a one-night thing?" I asked gently, without judgment. She nodded. "Yeah, no strings, no emotions, just something easy for once." I didn't answer right away. I wasn't shocked, not by what she said, but by the quiet heartbreak behind it. She wasn't chasing desire. She was trying to numb something, to erase it, to have control over the ache, if only for a night. She glanced back at me, searching my face. "You don't have to be weird about it. I just figured I'd ask instead of playing games." I stepped a little closer, not to close the space, but just enough to lower my voice beneath the breeze. "Mia," I said softly, "you deserve more than a night someone forgets by morning." She stilled. I think caught her off guard, like she wasn't sure if I meant it or if she'd misheard me. "I'm not judging you," I added quickly, "and I understand where you're coming from. I've been on both sides of that kind of night. But every time, one of us wakes up feeling emptier than before." Her eyes shimmered suddenly, glassy with emotion she hadn't expected to let slip. I continued, gently, "You deserve someone who wants to know your favorite book. Someone who listens to the story behind your scars. Someone who remembers your laugh, even after you've walked away. Not someone who disappears while you're still asleep." Her lips parted slightly, but no words came. Then, in the smallest, most broken voice, she laughed and whispered, "Why did you have to say that?" She shook her head. "No one ever says that." I smiled softly. "Then they're fools." She looked down into her cup, then back at me. I didn't think I'd cry tonight. I reached into my pocket and handed her a tissue. No one ever does. For a while, we just stood there in silence, letting the hum of bass from inside the party blend with the occasional sound of cars in the distance. It wasn't uncomfortable. It was quiet, real, honest. Eventually, she turned to me again and whispered, "Thank you," but not for turning her down, for something deeper. Not for rejecting me, she said, but for seeing me. We didn't exchange numbers. She didn't ask, and neither did I. It wasn't that kind of moment. She hugged me before she left, a long, wordless embrace that said everything we couldn't. Then she slipped back inside and disappeared into the crowd. That was 4 months ago. I still don't know her last name. I don't know if she went back to her ex, found someone new, or decided she was better off alone for a while. But I think about her sometimes. When I pass someone on the street who looks like they're holding it together too hard. When I hear laughter that sounds just a bit too practiced. She came looking for a night she could forget. What I gave her instead, maybe, was a moment that reminded her she was worth remembering.